There's a lot of sailors around the world that can relate, because we're sailing very similar to boats to what they've actually got, and they could imagine themselves in something like this if they really wanted to do it.
Don McIntyre had a dream. Exactly 50 years after Robin Knox-Johnson became the first man to sail around the world non-stop single-handed, Don McIntyre invited sailors to run the race again.
In 1968, the first ever round-the-world solo yacht race began. 9 men started and only 1 finished. That was Robin Knox-Johnson.
In 2018, 18 sailors heeded the call. They set out in small boats without modern navigation equipment, just as they did in the original Golden Globe race. A retro race, if you like. A race that anyone could join.
Seems normal to eat a salad, but when you come back after 8 months at sea without any salad, I can tell you that the salad is very good.
I'm going to enjoy it. I like it.
Will you miss anything?
Nothing. Seriously.
Being on my own, sailing on my own is not a fear for me. I'm really happy with that.
This happened to coincide with our youngest daughter turning 18, and I taught her to drive, and I realized that I don't have any underage kids home more, so I'm free to go.
Along with some of the old hands, a new group of sailors are joining in 2022.
You are competing against others, but in a way you're also competing with yourself.
Don McIntyre has another dream too. A race around the world for yachts with crews. You've guessed it, another retro race. We'll let him tell you about this and his plans for a third round the world race for mini boats.
So for people that don't know, you have now got 3 races, retro races, that are on the cards. So the Golden Globe Bake, which I think most people do know about now, since you've run 1 edition of that already, and obviously the earliest edition in '68. But the Ocean Globe race, so that's now the crewed race, which is a version of the Whitbread. Is that right? And it's going to be run on the 50th anniversary.
The 50th anniversary of the Whitbread race is coming up, and as everyone knows, in the 90s, it transitioned from the Whitbread race to the Volvo race and became very professional. And I thought, if the Golden Globe race is a success, as soon as it's over, I'm going to launch the same thing, taking the 50th anniversary back to the original roots of the Whitbread and give it back to sailors again. So that's what we did. We launched a bit over a year ago, and sailing in Nauta Swan type, the same sort of boats that were sailed back in the late 70s and 80s, and bring it back to retro rules, with a sextant, the way it was back then, and radios and so on. World's best practice for safety gear, but only 30% of the crew are allowed to be professionals. The rest have to be amateurs. So it's guys sitting at the bar at the yacht club that used to in the 70s saying, let's join the Whitbread and sail around the world. They can do it again. And bugger me, a bit over a year later, we're nearly full. Right, the entries are virtually full, and we haven't promoted the race or done anything for a year because of COVID. We made a decision. People are just passionate about this event, and it's going to really open a few eyes. People are telling us it's the biggest thing, the newest thing in sailing in the last decade. And we've got, we'll have 34 boats racing around the world, fully crewed, 4 legs, right the same way as it was in '73. And the world's never seen anything like that for 30 years. So it's cool. Yeah.
And for people like us, for cruisers, it's much more relevant, isn't it? I mean, I love watching the Prada, the coming up to the America's Cup, the qualifiers for that, and obviously the Vendée. But they're the Formula One. They're don't really bear any relationship to the boats that we sail.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we love all that stuff. We love the Vendée, we love the Imogas, we love all the, even the Volvo. I followed every Volvo race. I mean, they were just insane, the 65s, and it's really exciting. But that's fully professional, the best of the best. So it's like the Olympics, and not everyone can get to the Olympics. So by going back to the way it used to be in the good old days, it's developing the human story, and it's talking about the adventure. It's still a huge competition. It's a great race. but it's very real. So each of the boats is owned by an owner, and that owner is just so excited. He gets goosebumps thinking about it. He's then got these mixed amateur crews there that have finally got a chance to say, what? We can race around Cape Horn through the Southern Ocean? Are you kidding me? People, the current generation of sailors didn't even think it was possible, because it hasn't been for the last 30 years. And boy, it's electric. I got to tell you, there's been so many, we just flooded with inquiries and flooded with entries now. And as I say, we've got 10, the Sailor class, which is boats from 55 to 65 feet. It's full with boats on the wait list. We've got 10 fully paid up entrants. Adventure class, which is the smaller boats from 47 feet up to 55 feet. It's full. We've got 8 entrants there with 2 on the wait list. The Flyer class, which is boats that have previously done the Whitbread, the first 3 editions of the Whitbread, it's now only got 1 place left. We've got 9 entries. And the Classic Challenge, which is the Maxis and the Volvo 60s and Whitbread 60s, it'll be full in the next 3 or 4 months, and we haven't done anything for the last year.
I was going to say, one of those boats, we gather, is Maiden. Is Maiden still going to be partaking?
Tracy is. She was one of the first entrants. She heard about it. We only ever issued 2 press releases. She saw the first one, and she got in touch with us and said, "Wow, this is us. We're in." So she's a big fan, big supporter. And the funny story for Tracy, when she joined up, we were talking on the phone. I said to her, "Hey, look, you got to have a mixed gender crew." Which means you're going to have to have a bloke. And I thought, oh, look, but it's okay. I'll give you a special dispensation so you can go around with all women. And then she said, no way. I might want to have a male cook on board, So yeah, she's quite excited about the prospect. Her program is pretty intense right now, going around the world with promoting the women's, opportunities and that. But that'll all finish as it comes around to 2023. So she's out now, it's in the back of her mind, and they'll develop a whole program. So it's great. So,
is Tracy actually going to be on board, for any of the legs?
I've got no idea. I haven't popped the question, but you never know, You never know, because this is the big deal. Like it's the, for her, it's reliving the Whitbread, which is amazing. We've got a lot of people that did the Whitbread previously that have now joined this. One classic, a guy by the name of Renaud, he was 22 years old in 73, sailed with Eric Taverley, around the world in the Whitbread. He's now, a lot older. He's gone and bought a Swan 55, beautiful boat, and he's entered the adventure class. We've got the stories behind the campaigns, like the owners and the boats, is really vibrant. The race is just full of colour, full of passion. They're really interesting owners. Like the OGR family is going to be bigger than the GGR family because there's simply more people. but yeah, it's very exciting.
Yeah, and of course it ran for years, whereas there was only one Golden Globe race, the original in '68. This has been run over the years. It's got all those characters.
Different.
Yeah, all those boats. Are any of the other boats come out of the woodwork? One like Drum, Simon Le Bon's old boat.
Well, I'm not sure when this goes to air, but I can't. I'm sworn to secrecy. But we've got in the Classic Challenge, we've got 3 Maxis signed on. Okay, in the Classic Challenge, that's for modern boats up to just as it transitioned into the Whitbread, into the Volvo rather. And yes, we've got Claire Francis's boat. ACD Accurate. We've got King's Legend. We've got Spirit, the original Export 33 that won the Whitbread race, the first French winners, and the youngest skipper at 29. We've got quite a few of the previous Whitbread boats in the fleet as well. So yeah, it's going to be quite a spectacle.
Can I ask you now about the Golden Globe race, which you're rerunning, or running again, I should say, in 2022? In 2018, I think 5 people made it round out of 18 starters.
Yeah.
So still a real challenge on so many different levels. This time we have 1 woman, I think, so far signed up, Kirsten. We have some pictures of her. What is it about that challenge?
Well, there's an interesting point. What event, what round the world race is the toughest or the biggest challenge? You know, the most extreme and all those sorts of things. Everyone lays claim to certain things. One thing I can say about the Golden Globe race, it's the longest, loneliest sporting event for any individual in any sport anywhere in the world. I mean, it's epic. They're out there for 10 months. They're completely on their own. They have no support whatsoever. They are really stretched for communication, so they're totally alone. It's not like the Vendée, and it's not like any other event anywhere, and that's extreme. The boats are very wholesome, and people relate to that, And we got hammered in the last event. It'll probably change in 22 because we're leaving 2 months later. Okay, the weather should be better, and it's just a dream for people, I think. The original Golden Globe inspired a lot of people. Robert Knox-Johnson, the winner, he's just a hero to so many, including myself. And he's just, that whole thing is like it's the ultimate challenge. So there will always be people that want to do it. And we'll have, at the moment, we're running at about 27 entries in the race. I reckon, and there's still more talking about it. So I think we'll end up with probably over 25 starters at the end of the day. Wow. And plenty of things can happen, and it's fascinating. We had a big following last time. It's going to be even bigger next time.
Yeah. Well, you talk about Robin being a hero of yours, hero of mine, obviously, as well from that time. But what about Jean-Luc Van der Heide? I mean, at 73 to win it last time out, what was that like to meet him after? I mean, obviously we met him beforehand, but we haven't seen him since.
It's incredible. I mean, that was a huge story, and he's an amazing sailor. And having known Jean-Luc since about 82 or something, we've been mates for a long, long time. I was just so happy that he finally won a race. It was the first one he'd ever won. He was always coming second and third. But yeah, it was really amazing, and it surprised a lot of people, and it inspired a huge amount of people. He always has been very popular in France, and that just took it over the top. I mean, the people have been really interested. It's an epic thing for him, and it just showed, that age is just a number. As you know, I supported a young girl when she was 16 to sail solo around the world, Jessica Watson, and that showed people again that age is just a number. And you don't have to be superhuman to go sailing. If you can reef a sail and you can do a few bits, you don't have to be a gorilla. So you've got older people, you've got younger people, and they're still winning races, and that's good for everyone. So yeah, it's an amazing challenge.
It does help if you're superhuman, though, doesn't it? So Mark Slatts, who is obviously superhuman, who again came second a lot because he came second in Talisker Whiskey Challenge the first time in overall, but obviously wiped the floor in the single-handed, is now won everything in that, and he came second, didn't he, in the Golden Globe? How can you be as good at all those disciplines? I mean, what's he like as a character? We never get to meet him because he wasn't there when we were filming.
Yeah, Mark is just a jolly green giant. He is just huge, and he's passionate about getting out there and doing things. I mean, he's a powerhouse, and he's got a huge amount of energy, and he's very agile, and he can cope with a lot. He enjoys that anticipation, and he enjoys pushing to the limit. There's no question. And because he's such a big guy, and he's rowing partner when they just won the cheapest
Whiskey Challenge.
Talisker. Yeah, they used to be a sponsor of mine. That's why I was trying to the Talisker row across the Atlantic. Every one stroke of theirs is probably about 1 1/4 for everyone else rowing their little boats. They can just go whoop, whoop. But yeah, an amazing guy, and it's yet to be seen what's next. He's basking in the glory, and it was a huge challenge for him to design, build, and then prepare for that. He said he wanted to do it, and he just did it big time. So very impressive guy, a lot of fun too. He's a straight talker. It's good.
Yeah.
In general, what we're finding now, maybe it's because we've got the channel, but I think with COVID and all the other things that are happening at the moment with people being restricted, sailing seems to be, on a winner. Everyone wants to sail now. Are you finding that more people are just interested in the idea of just getting away from it all?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's two things I can say there. I mean, you see what's happening with boats. Smaller boats are selling. People are not going on holidays. They're thinking more about the quality of life. They can't go on paid holidays to resorts. they're thinking about that life-work balance. You know, COVID has shaken up the world, and it's going to continue to do that for another year or so. It's like a reality check on why are we here? What are we doing? What's it all about? You know, there's been a lot of sorrow and a lot of, you know, all sorts of things, and it affects everyone. I thought I was pretty good. I've been living in an apartment lockdown, and it's been very challenging in little ways. So yeah, there's no question. I think the people are you know, looking at dreams more, you know, and maybe taking the leap into doing something they normally wouldn't have done.
Because I think one of the things about the Golden Globe race that's brilliant for me as a sailor on an ordinary boat. I mean, we've got a similar boat to, although bigger. You know, we wouldn't qualify. Otherwise, I would have done it. Obviously, I wouldn't, not in a million years. But you know, a long-keeled, safe, you know, proper old cruising boats is what they're using. And obviously, the good thing about that for cruisers like us is that these guys are out there in the Southern Ocean, testing them in, you know, the ultimate conditions, places that us cruisers won't go, but it means that, you know, we do get caught out sometimes in storms and heavy weather, and you need to know, you know, how to handle your boat and what's good. And these guys are there, you know, at the pinnacle, testing things really for you. Now, you know, within that race, you know, we had really heavy weather. You had that one massive storm that knocked out Susie and knocked out Ablash. What lessons have been learnt from that? I mean, I'm thinking about drogues and things like that as well. I mean, I'm sure you went through lots of different things, you know, at the end of that race.
The first lesson is every storm is different, you know, and there's no set rule to how you set your own boat up in a particular storm, right? And I got a pet subject here. It's the series drogue, right? I haven't got any hair left to pull out. Everyone assumes you buy a series drogue, put it in your locker, and you're saved. You know. Yeah. Now I've got nothing against series drogue, but that attitude is completely wrong, because every storm, every sequence of waves, every different type of boat, there's so many combinations. It's a very complicated matrix. Yes, you need to know about all the different opportunities and the things that you can use to cope in a storm, but believe me, everyone's different. So you need to just, and that's the big lesson. That's the one thing I keep telling people, you know, there's more to it than that. You don't just stick a drogue out and go boom. You know?
It drives me mad. There are several quite respected, I know, yachtsmen that write vlogs and do all sorts of different things that say, oh yeah, series drogue. And they fail to mention the fact that you need a chain plate, you know, the size of the thing that's holding your mast up to, you know, to hold these things. And people think, oh, they can just tie it off somewhere. You know, you really can't. So. Yeah. You can't retrieve them very well. But what happened with Susie? I mean, she had her drogue out at the time, didn't she? And it snapped. Did that you know, was that something that was part of
the severity of the whole issue? Then was partly due to the fact that there was a manufacturing fault in the series drogue. What happened was when the boat went down, you know, like the boat went down, it was held by the drogue at the back on a big wave, and when she was right at the top, instead the line snapped. Okay. So it was like an arrow in a bow, you know, and when it snapped right at the worst possible moment, and the steam line, the boat just slammed, you know, more or less pitch poled and slammed down. She may have been better off in that particular instance not to have the drogue, right? Maybe not, maybe, who knows what. Certainly the line breaking didn't hurt anyone. They did a big investigation, and somehow, somewhere, someone tied a knot in it and blah, blah, blah. So, and they've solved that problem. So don't worry, anyone buying a series drogue, you're not going to break your rope. So that was a learning experience for everyone. But yeah, you know, I mean, there's different attitudes, and my attitude is that there is no set course and no set formula. I'm an advocate of keep the boat moving, you know, keep the boat steering if you can, and you know, take it at an angle, take the seas at an angle, and ride with it, you know. And I've carried a drogue at different times, but I've never actually used one, and I've been in some good storms. Don't worry. So it's a very personal thing, and I never recommend anything. You know, you got to learn all about it and then decide how it goes. What I would say though, you know, we took a lot of flack from so many people that don't want to, you know, they say, oh, we're just stupid. Fancy going down south in those sorts of boats through the Southern Ocean, you know, full keel boats and all that sort of stuff. Oh, you got to have a modern boat and this, that, and the other. That's fine. Go do your modern boat. But there's a couple of core reasons we went with the full keel boat. The first one is it'll look after the skipper in an extreme situation. They track really well. They're good for wind vanes, and we don't have autopilots in the GGR. And the other thing is, there's a very little interesting point here that I know, because I'm a boat builder as well from a long time ago, all of those boats are built like a tank, okay? And one of the biggest fears in the Southern Ocean, if you get in your life raft, it's not a good day, right? If you can stay with your boat, even in extreme situations, it's a lot better day, you know? Okay, it might be wet, cold, miserable. And that's exactly what happened with the GGR. Yes, we got hammered, you know, some bad luck maybe, whatever, but no one actually got into a life raft. And that was one of the reasons, one of a few reasons that we chose those types of boats as well. Sounds corny, but it's still relevant. So, you know, people said, oh, you have to get rid of those boats and go with modern ones. And I said, there's nothing wrong. The Contessa 32, beautiful boat to go down the solo circumnavigation, but it's not what this is about. The GGR is a different ethos, and it's going back to the original one, so that's why we did it. And I'm very happy about it, and it'll stay that way forever and a day.
I noticed Tapio, who that was in the last Golden Globe and was one of the finishers of that race, but he was obviously slowed by barnacles. He's down to do it again, and is also down for the OGI. He's bought a Swan, has he?
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know, I mean, for the Golden Globe, first of all, Abolish Tommy from India, who was, you know, great guy and a thing. He's officially publicly stated 3 or 4 days ago, he's retired from the Navy now to concentrate specifically on re-entering the Golden Globe race in 22.
Wow.
Yeah, okay. So it'd be great to have Tommy back.
Have they recovered his boat?
No, he's going to buy a boat this time. You know, the other one's lost. And then Tapio, of course, yes, he's got unfinished business. He got crucified by someone putting the wrong paint on the boat. You know, he understands it was his responsibility, but you know, it was a nightmare. So he's coming back with, again for the GGR, and he has a beautiful Swan 55 Galliana, which he's entered into the 23 GGR. So while he's racing the GGR, his crew will be refitting Galliana for the OGR, and when he steps off at the end of the GGR, he'll have about 3 months break before he sets off again with a young crew around the world. So he's inspiring a lot of people. He's had about 50 or 60 young sailors in Finland try out for crew for the Ocean Globe race. So that's a good story. But I've got to tell you, the Ocean Globe race, all of the boats, all the entries, they've got amazing stories. It's going to be quite something. So, yeah.
Well, Tapio, when we talked to Tapio before, when we interviewed him before the Golden Globe, he came out very nonchalant. He just said, well, you know, my last of my children, I've taught to drive now. It's all my turn to have a little adventure, so I'm just going to go off and do the Golden Globe. Now he's doing, he's obviously got the bug.
Yeah. I don't know, you know, when I get busy sometimes, but I look at Tapio and think, holy dooly, he's busy, you know, but he's a great guy. He's a very warm guy, and we like him a lot. We're looking forward to having him back in GGR, and he's very excited about the recreation of the Whitbread race, because he did the Whitbread, you know, he did the third Whitbread, and he was a watch leader and stuff. Yeah, and it was really funny because during when he was the last man standing in the GGR, you know, we'd have our chats on the phone every now and then, and he passed a comment. He said, you know, the GGR, this is really cool, but I really miss the idea of going on a 4-hour watch and then having 4 hours off and let someone else play with the boat so you can come out again and really roar through the Southern Ocean. And all the time he's telling me this, I know I'm about to announce the Ocean Globe race, right? So I can tell you a bit of an inside story here, because I'm not supposed to do this, but anyway, in the last month, when he's really on his own, everyone's finished and gone home, and poor old Tapio's sailing up, and we'd talk, and you could feel he was a bit down. And so I said, hey, Tapio, I told him about the Ocean Globe race, and he just went, dang, you're kidding me. You know, so the last month, I don't think he even put this in the book, the last month, all he could think about was what boat he was going to buy for the Ocean Globe race and how he was going to get the crew, because he really excites young sailors in Finland. He trains them in oppies and all sorts. And he was sworn to secrecy, and he'd actually organised to buy his boat within the first week of the end of the GGR. It was really quite funny. So yeah, he's very excited about reliving the Whitbread race. You know.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Finally, then, can you enlighten us on what anti-foul he did use? Because it's obviously not one to buy. I mean, it always astounds me that a boat that's moving through the water full time got the amount of barnacles. I mean, that boat was covered, wasn't it? What was he putting on there?
Well, and there was a few had problems, and it was all because they didn't concentrate. Basically, there was a story behind them all. But in Tapio's case, he was so busy and so frantic getting the refit done and so on. He put the order in for the anti-fouling, which needed to be the really high biocide anti-fouling and so on, but then didn't follow through with it. So when the guys went to buy the anti-fouling, they bought the anti-fouling for the Baltic, because the good stuff's sort of banned in the Baltic, because the Baltic is sort of half fresh, half salt, and blah, blah, blah. And so they put the weakest one you can buy on the bottom of the boat. So Tapio just left with the wrong paint. When Mark Slats did it, he managed to get the stuff right, but he had copper coat on the bottom, and he apparently didn't do it all in one application and might not have had enough, and then put a bit more on. So that wasn't quite right, maybe. So he had some barnacles, but he'd just swim and get them off. And then Susie had copper coat, but then she put anti-fouling on it, and it was sort of okay, but she also had barnacles, and a few of them did. Uku had barnacles. So Igor, our Russian guy, that was a whole story. They anti-fouled the boat with the good gear in Spain, sailed it around to Falmouth, and then the Sable d'Olonne for the start. 3 days before the start, they slipped the boat and pressure blasted it, and then put it back in the water. So they took out all the bloody good stuff. And the only guy who really concentrated, and he didn't use any super mix, and it wasn't anything high tech, was Jean-Luc. He did everything by the book. He put heaps of coats on, the hard racing one to start with. Then he put the ablative ones on the outside, on the basis the ablative will all come off by the time he gets through the Atlantic. And when he's in the Southern Ocean, it's so cold, it's not a problem. And then by the time he's coming back up the Atlantic again, they've got long enough time to hang on. And he never swam on the boat, and he arrived and he had a few random barnacles, So it's all the key three things that I always use every time. It's very simple: planning, preparation, execution. If you fail on any one of them, you're cooked. But if you get them all right, it's not rocket science,
You have mentioned on several occasions your own sailing, and the fact that you haven't managed to do a great deal of that while you've been organising all these races for other people. You're getting back on board, I gather.
Yeah, I feel like a fraud, because I wanted every 4 or 5 years of my whole life I've done a bigger expedition, and the GGR I was meant to be sailing, I didn't, and I'm starting to get frustrated. I needed to do something, and September of September of 19, I saw a window to go for a sail across the Atlantic. So I thought, bugger it, time to do my little boat thing. I've always been impressed by little boat journeys, going right back to Willing Griffin in the Ostars in the 70s, and all sorts of little boat trips. And so we've launched a new class called Class Globe 580, right? And it's a 19-foot or 5.8 metre plywood box, specifically designed by Janis Mederski, really cool Polish guy. We worked together on the concepts, and it's a serious ocean racing boat. It's got 3 watertight compartments, easy to build. Anyone can build it in their backyard. The whole concept is to be simple, strong, fun. It's not got an extreme rig like a Mini 650, so guys like me or even younger that want to go voyaging and have a race don't have to hang on by the edge of their teeth. Oh, shit, They're not surfing at 30 knots all the time, And anyway, we launched it in late March of 2020, and 9 months later, we got 135 builders all around the world building these little boats, which is phenomenal. Yeah. And it really hit a niche, and some of it could have been COVID, because there's a few dreams of sailors, right? And I'm a sailor. I wanted to sail around the world, so I did. Wouldn't it be nice to build your own little boat in your backyard, and sail that around and do something? So it's really hit the mark, and we've got so many people now waiting to see the first boat sailing. It could get really interesting. By the end of this year, we'll have a feel for what's going on, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a couple hundred boats getting built by the end of this year. Once they start getting launched and sailing, and people see them because they really are quite a cool boat. We might have you.
Just in case someone didn't hear you or didn't believe you, you're talking about a basically less than 20-foot boat, 19-foot boats. I mean, I used to have an Enterprise Enterprise dinghy to teach the girls to sail, our girls to sail, and that was 13 foot. This isn't much bigger than an Enterprise dinghy, and you're going to sail it around the world. I mean, most people think that's completely nuts.
Well, you can sail it around the world or you can sail it around the bay. It doesn't matter. It's good for club racing and good for fun, but it's seriously designed for the mini globe race. That's the whole concept. And the mini globe race, when you say you're going to race these boats around the world, they go, "You're what?" But honestly, it's completely achievable. The name of my boat is called Trekker, Trekker 2, after the original John Guswell Trekker, which was a little tiny boat, sailed around the world, no big deal. There's been plenty other little boats sailed around the world. We're going via the trade wind route, so it's across the Atlantic, Panama, across the Pacific. The biggest challenge will be underneath Cape Town and then around and up the top. It'll take about 15 months to get around. It's really like a race of attrition, things will happen along the way. And it's very, very real. I mean, I'm an advocate of serious risk mitigation and serious preparation and no cutting corners. It's completely achievable. There's no big deal about it. These boats are going to do it. And so anyway, I'm not going to do it because I've got some other things planned, but I'll be racing mine across the Atlantic, which was always my ambition. So we have a Globe Transat setting off at the beginning of November from Portugal across the Atlantic to the Caribbean. So it's about 3,600 miles or something, and I can't wait. I finally get to go sailing in my little boat. So it's cool. I've had it built with a friend in Poland. It'll be down here it should be sailing in March. Okay, and then we'll work it up. And we're not sure, everyone's been delayed because of COVID. It's been a real pain. We had 13 expressions of interest to enter the Globe Transat, but I'm not sure how big a fleet we'll have. It could be 6 or 7. I'm not sure yet. We'll wait and see.
Right. Okay, but people can get the plans from you, can they? And build one of these, as you say.
€300. Buy your plans, €300, and you're underway. And you can build your own boat in your backyard in the garage. I mean, there's everyone building part of that. There's one design boat. There's a class association, and you have to have a blog when you build your boat so we can keep an eye on it while you're building it. And so you can see there's 30 odd boats. They've all got blogs up there on the website. You can follow all the builds, and there's Facebook page and all that sort of stuff. So it's we got we're heading towards 5,000 people on the Facebook page already. And one builder, he just got onto TikTok. And the other day he said, "Oh, another grey-haired old guy." Long story. He put a TikTok up, and overnight he got 25,000 views. He's now up to 95,000 views in like a week. Wow. So people are relating to the idea of building their own boat and go sailing. So anyway, we'll wait and see. But there's some more fun ahead.
Yeah, well, it's a good project to do in lockdown. Get the plans, get in your garage, build one, and then
Yeah, it's been interesting. So anyway, a lot of fun.
And on the other side, of course, of COVID, how is that affecting your planning? You mentioned obviously that a lot of people are having trouble getting around, which we are all party to. Is it affecting your plans for the stages of the Whitbread style race, in particular the Ocean Globe?
No, we're really lucky. The Ocean Globe will start in September the 10th in 2023. So we're still just under 3 years away. So 2 years and 9 months or something. So we're far enough out not to be affected with that. But as I say, the interesting one was we made a conscious decision to stop promoting the race a year ago. We haven't issued a press release. We haven't done anything except maintain a Facebook page, and that's pretty low because the event hasn't happened. And yet the entries just keep coming in, one after the other. It's just word of mouth. And so that's okay. The Golden Globe, we're okay. We're starting September next year, September the 4th in 22, and we should be clear by then. So I think we'll have the crowds because the Vendée's just finishing, and looks like there'll be no crowds for the finish either, which is really sad for the entrance and stuff. Yeah. But yeah, it's had some impacts with potential partners and sponsors and things like that. But we're not worried about that. You know, we run a different business model, and we can, you know, we manage things quite well. And also the Ocean Globe race, there's a lot of positive things happening with that because it's unique in the marketplace. It's a very unique property for a sponsor, and so fortunately we're having some very interesting conversations right now. You know, we're feeling. I think people like technology, but boy, maybe they like human stories more. You know.
Well, thanks, Don. Thanks for talking to us. And
it's been good to see you.